Okay, before we get started on taking notes on Axum, I want you guys to remember that you are trying to paraphrase as much as possible so you're not writing so much. Also use abbreviations and symbols to shorten up your writing time as well. Remember, the point of taking notes isn't so that you're writing a lot down, it's so that you can get just the important information so that you can study from it later. My notes aren't as short as they should be because I didn't abbreviate or use as many symbols as I should have because you guys are following along with me. Make sure while you're doing this, you're staying focused by being active. So write down questions that you have, write down words that you don't know, write down different ideas that you have so that you're keeping the brain active instead of just being a passive listener. When we're doing this style of note taking, remember we indent about a third of the page in, and then we draw a line that goes down to the bottom of the page. We're going to call this line the Q line. So if I refer to your Q line, you should be on the right side of that or left side. You know what I'm talking about. To the right side of it, we're going to do this new. You are going to write down notes or take notes the way that you are comfortable with. So if that is bullet points or if that's using Roman numerals outlining style, that's up to you. You don't have to do it the way that I had you do it before. So to the right of that line, you're going to take notes the way you want to. On the left side of the line, this is also new. You are going to leave that part blank until we are completely done with reading or taking lecture notes, and then you're going to go back and do that side later. At the top of my paper, I have it titled as Kingdom of Axum. And underneath it, to the right of the Q line, I have a subtitle of Axum. And the reason why I do this is because now looking at my paper, even if I didn't remember what I read today, I would know that, hey, all this information underneath it that's slightly indented must belong to the Axum section. And then when I get a little bit lower, I'll see Rise of Islam. Going back to the top of our paper where our subtitle of Axum is located, underneath it I have a bullet point of Axum's growth made Kush decline. Underneath that I have Axum equals modern day Ethiopia. Then I have it was founded by Arabs, and because of that, you end up with a mixture of Arab culture and African culture that makes up Axum's culture. Then if I keep going, I have Axum's prosperity is due to their location on the eastern coast of Africa on the Red Sea. And the reason why that is so important is because this allows them to have great access to waterways, which allows them to have great trade routes. They can trade with India, they can trade with the Middle East, they can trade with the Mediterranean world, which is Europe, and Northern Africa. Things that Axum commonly traded were frankincense and myrrh. Both of them are resins that come from trees that are used for their aromas. They also dealt slaves away in order to receive textiles, metal goods, wine, and olive oil. Another major resource of Axum was ivory, and they often competed with the Kingdom of Kush for that resource. King Ezana, which was the first Christian king of Axum, invaded the Kingdom of Kush in order to keep them from taking away ivory that he felt belonged to them. King Ezana decides to invade Kush over this ivory dispute. Kush collapses and Axum becomes stronger. Now, he becomes Christian because a group of Syrians that happen to be Christian, they shipwreck in territory that belongs to Axum. He's introduced to Christianity, he takes it as his religion, and he makes it the official religion of the Axum kingdom. This takes us to our next subtitle, Rise of Islam. Islam, as we know, because we just got done covering that section, it starts in the Arabian Peninsula and works its way across northern Africa and eventually goes into Spain, getting stopped in France. It also, at the same time, starts to work its way down the eastern coast of Africa. Initially, the relationship between the Muslims and the Christian state of Axum is peaceful because they're not getting each other's way. But eventually, when they start to have problems because of resources, it comes a time for war. Your book stops here, and we don't know what happens. So, I'm going to go ahead and get started on the next section and how we're going to do things. So now, like I said earlier, this is something new. We haven't done like this before. Leaving the left side of our paper completely blank until we were done with reading. So, to the left side of our cue line, we should have things like the main ideas or questions that we have, connecting points, diagrams, prompts, pictures, things to help us remember what we just read. So, what I did is I started with Roman numerals so I can organize the information on the right side of the paper without rewriting everything. So I looked at the information and I tried to break it down into categories. The categories that I came up with that I used for the different Roman numerals are Roman numeral number 1, origin of Axum. And this is because this information here is all about the beginning or the foundation of Axum. The next set of Roman numerals I have, trading of Axum. And that's because all of this stuff here deals with Axum developing as a great trading nation. Underneath that, I have money is evil. And the reason why I put that here is because here we find out that King Izana, he becomes a Christian king. All right. And we already talked about Christian beliefs, do unto others, turn the other cheek, and those type of good fundamental values. But then all of a sudden, because resources become scarce, all of a sudden he's willing to invade and take over other kingdoms. Okay, so under our first Roman numeral, origin of Axum, I have a couple different questions. I have where's Axum located? And if you look here, I have two arrows, one pointing at our other side of our line where it says Axum equals modern day Ethiopia. And I have another area that takes us down into trading of Axum, but we still have information there that tells us about the location of Axum. So I drew an arrow down to where it says Red Sea and Eastern Africa. So that way we know where Axum is located. After that, or underneath that, I have how did Axum start? And from there I also have two arrows as well. One that says Axum grows from the decline of Kush, and then also Axum is founded by Arabs. So those are two answers that help us answer our question. Underneath trading of Axum, which is our Roman numeral number 2, I have question number 3, what makes Axum great? And then I have an arrow that takes us to location and another arrow that points at the word trade. And the reason for that is because their trade is so awesome because of their location. They can trade with a bunch of different people and receive goods that come from faraway lands. Moving down, okay, I'm sorry. Before we get to Roman numeral number 3, I have a map drawn, hand drawn, so it's not awesome, sorry. And it shows arrows pointing out from Africa going to India, the Arabian Peninsula, and the Mediterranean. This is to represent items that leave Africa. And then at the bottom of our arrow that's still in Africa, I have an arrow pointing down into Africa, which shows that they're not only shipping things out, they're receiving things from these faraway lands. So, at the end of this, when I talk about studying, one of the things that I would do with this map is, fold my piece of paper. I see that, I look at that side, and I say, hey, what do they trade with people? Who are the people that they're trading with? Roman numeral number 3. Money is evil. The reason why I titled this section this is because, like I said, because of finances, it made Axum act aggressively towards other countries or other states. So question number 5 is, how does trade affect the behavior of Kush? And then I have an arrow that points to invading of Kush, which leads to their collapse. And then I have an arrow that shows that they invaded the Adel Sultanate. Question number 6, what was Axum like? Here I have, this is my largest chain of arrows. Up at the top of the paper, I have it pointing to where it says Arab and African culture mixed. Underneath that, within, they trade with Africa, India, so on and so forth, because that shows that they're a prosperous nation, that they make good money, probably a lot of merchant type jobs. Underneath that, I have it pointing to led to King Izana conquering Kush. And the reason why I have that is because to show that maybe they have a strong military and maybe they were an expanding place. So maybe a good solid place to live. And then at the bottom of the page, once again, invading Adel Sultanate. And that's all I have for questions on this section. You can have other ones besides that. You don't have to have the same ones I have, but those are the ones that I would study. And now how I would actually study this is fold my paper in half so that I have the question and my Q section on one side and I have the answers on the other side. And in that way you can ask yourself these questions and quiz yourself, do you know the answers to your own questions that you created? I hope this helped you. Let me know. Please give me any feedback as to what I can do to make this video better, even if it's anonymous and you just leave a note on my desk or on my table in the center of the room. But please let me know so I can do a better job in making sure that you guys get this information.